Hi, my name is Alex and this is Under the Radar, my attempt to showcase awesome games in VR. Today we are looking at Returnal. With Housemarque's next game, Ceres, currently in the pipeline, I found myself getting interested again in the predecessor. But before I dive into the VR aspect, let me give you a brief history of my time with this game. I first played Returnal back in 2021 when it launched on PS5. It was actually one of my first games I ever streamed on Twitch for a handful of viewers. And to be honest, I did not have a good time. Returnal is one of those games you either click with it and breeze through, or you struggle so much that you lose all motivation to continue. And I was definitely on the second camp. Here's the footage of my first win against the game's first boss.
Ja, da muss ich auch wieder weg. Einmal und Sommer, dann greif's nochmal an. Nein. Hau ab. Lass mich einfach in Ruhe. Rübergesprungen. Oh, das sieht gut. Hast du das gesehen? Oh, da kommt er zurück. Das habe ich nicht gewusst. Und nochmal. Nein. Boah, wie viel noch? Wie KP hat er noch? Und jetzt habe ich zweimal dagegen. Mann. Einmal und gleich mal das nochmal. Nein. Jetzt hau ab.
And believe it or not, that win took me literally days and multiple streaming sessions to achieve. I eventually beat the second boss, but after that I never touched the game on PS5 again. Now, with Ceres on the horizon and seeing other YouTubers jump back into Returnal in VR, I checked Nexus mods and found two very helpful mods to lower the difficulty. Let's be fully clear here, I'm getting older. I don't feel the need for an extreme challenge in video games anymore. With Returnal, I specifically wanted to experience the VR aspect and see how much fun it could be. So feel free to roast me in the comments for using a max health mod, but without these additions I wouldn't have bought the game again, even on sale. And don't get me wrong, even with increased health, I died and died. And died. And died. And died again. For those who don't know, Returnal is a roguelike arcade bullet hell shooter. You progress through a world, gaining upgrades within a single one. Permanent upgrades come mostly in the form of weapon traits or artifacts you unlock for future ones, but every one starts roughly the same. There are some shortcuts and checkpoints. For example, after you beat the third boss, you start immediately at the fourth biome, because it acts as a new act lore-wise. But getting there is a marathon. One run can easily take 2 hours if you're exploring every corner for currency and health upgrades. Dying at the end of a 2-hour run is soul-crushing. Since Returnal is an Unreal Engine game, it works right out of the box with UEVR. You just inject it and you're ready to go. However, a user named LetMeIn on the Flat2VR Discord created a specific profile to turn this third-person game into a first-person experience, which is what I used for most of his footage. My first few ones were direct injection without any profile. In this mode you are the camera, controlling the main character, Celine, via mouse and keyboard or an Xbox controller. It's a great seated experience, you sit back and relax, and some players argue that this is the better perspective because you can see your surroundings and incoming projectiles more clearly, but for me it felt like playing the normal game but on a massive 360-degree cinema screen. After 3 runs in third person, I switched to the first person profile. And this didn't just change the perspective of the game, it changed my entire perspective on the game. Instead of an Xbox controller, you use motion controllers to aim and move. The first thing you will notice in first person is the scale. Everything feels 10 times bigger than it does on a flat TV. Enemies, doors and traps become life-sized and intimidating. The detail on the weapons is also incredible. On some of the more exotic guns, you can actually see the machinery breathing. You just don't notice these things in flat mode. One pro tip, I highly recommend switching the input for the dash. Dashing is like the Dark Souls roll. It has iframes that let you pass through the orange orbs unharmed. In the default scheme it's on the left hand, but I moved it to the right hand. Having jumping and dashing on the same thumb made the movement feel much more fluid. It switches button position with a melee attack, which you also often use, but not as often as quickly at dashing. So what is Returnal actually about? You play as Celine, an astronaut who crashes onto a mysterious planet. As she explores, she finds audio logs and even corpses of herself. She is trapped in a loop of death and rebirth, and your mission is to find a way to break it. And as I mentioned, it's not easy. The developers even included a note stating that the difficulty is intentional. I checked the trophy data on PS5 to see how many people actually finished the story, and the numbers are shocking. There are 6 biomes with 5 bosses at the end of the biomes, except the 5th biome, and the 3rd boss, Nemesis, is a major milestone because he marks the end of the Act 1. If you die after beating him, you restart at biome 4. Only 15% of players have a trophy for beating Nemesis. That means 85% of players never even saw the second half of the game. And that's a shame, because the second half, especially the icy world and the underwater dungeon, is incredibly atmospheric. I had way more fun being in the second act than on the first one. Because of my health mods, I was able to breeze through the game. And here's a plot twist. It was incredibly fun. For the first time, I wasn't stressed. I was just enjoying the act and shooting and dodging. The boss fights in VR are some of the most memorable moments I've had in gaming. Ixion, the second boss, was breathtaking. He flies into the sky and rains down hundreds of orbs while you scramble to dodge. And Hyperion from the 4th biome is a real standout. He plays a story important song on a massive organ, and the pipes of that organ fire the orbs at you. Being in VR, looking up at that depressing grey sky while yellow orbs rain down on you with that eerie music, it was stunning. I honestly think that if this has been the first boss, the game reception would be even higher. I went back and fought him 2 more times. Not because I had to, but just to experience the music and the scale again.
Finally. Silence. It was too much. Too much.
The final boss of the 6th biome was also very cool, especially in VR. Again, everything in VR is scaled 1:1, so you're actively standing in front of a giant skull who swings his arms at you. Additionally, Returnal has some first-person scenes where you enter a mysterious house and uncover the truth of all of this. These sections only last a few minutes, but gave me genuinely PT vibes. Some of the times the camera is taken away from you, facing the cutscene's correct location, which is of course a no-go in a true VR game, but since these forced camera movements are just for a few scenes, I can tell you Returnal is fully playable in VR. I had so much fun playing that even after beating the final boss, I continued my runs to collect the final endgame items, Sunface fragments, in order to redo the last boss fights to get the final true ending. I won't spoil here, but if you play roguelikes, you know that the end is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end. Okay, anyway, I still have Returnal installed on my PC, because one thing I only did once was the DLC, Ascension. It's a tower added to the game that is supposed to be even quicker with ranking up to negotiate the critics of the main part, that the length of a run is too long. The tower DLC wants to be a quick fun run. I only did it once, so it's still on my to-do list. The hut, like your minimap, is either placed 2 meters in front of you in third person or conveniently attached to your weapon hand in first person. This is great because when you aim you have all the info you need right there, including the active reload bar. If you time your reload correctly, you are back in the action immediately. If you miss, you are stuck on waiting. I just found out after I did all of my recording that the crosshair can be increased. I missed the timing constantly, but this is a skill issue, not the game's fault. Technically speaking, the game is highly polished. I achieved a stable 90 frames per second on my Quest 3 using virtual desktop with SSW. One thing I'd like to mention too, but forgot to record on Audacity, Returnal comes with 3D audio and works very immersive with a Quest 3 spatial audio design. On one occasion, one crude monster teleported behind me, and I was actively noticing that because the sound actually came from behind. It's really a see it to believe it experience. I think that Returnal is a AAA VR shooter, and you would not believe me if you don't experience the game the way I experienced. Finally, let's talk about Housemarque's new game, Servus. Recently, influencers were invited to Finland to playtest it. While everyone seems hyped, I noticed a trend. Out of the 4 or 5 reports I heard from them, none of them were able to beat the big boss at the end of their 6-hour session. It sounds like there might be a more permanent progression system, similar to Hades, but that's just a speculation for now. There are also rumors that Sony is scaling back on PC ports to keep people on the PlayStation ecosystem. While I understand that from a business perspective, my experience with Returnal means I was skipping Servus on PS5 for now. Without the ability to use VR or mods to tune the difficulty, I know I won't enjoy it as much. Servus runs on Unreal Engine 5, so VR is definitely possible via UEVR if it ever hits PC. But I will be keeping an eye on Servus once real gamers get their hands on it and can report it on the difficulty. If it feels fair, I don't mind paying full price. So if you're watching this in the future and Servus is already out, let me know in the comments what you think of the game. If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to keep reviewing VR experience mods, so please subscribe if you don't want to miss out. No matter how often you die on your adventures, safe travels.